How does the metaphysical notion of the modalities compare to the mathematical notion of number?
So um, I'm presuming everybody on this call, of course, working with computers and such, that everybody knows about numbers, right? So, for instance, at some point in early life, maybe in grade school somewhere, you actually learn this really abstract concept. Like the notion of counting is actually it's kind of this weird thing because we're not counting specific things. Like if I say there's three of something, the notion of threeness isn't bound to say stones or trees or people or fence posts. It's it's essentially an abstract concept in the sense that there's nothing in the world that is the essence of threeness, although we can find things that represent threeness pretty easily, right? I can take three forks out of a drawer and I can put them on the counter and I can say three. But the notion of threeness is instantiated in the count of the forks, but it's not anything about the forks themselves, right? I could put another fork on the counter and then I'd have four. Well, where did the three go and the four come from? Right? And it's not anything in the material of the forks, or it could be spoons, or it could be anything else. And so, in other words, as I go along, I basically at some point get the idea that the notion of three is an abstract, and it's not bound to any particular physical instantiation. So if we hold that as a kind of metaphor, right, that the notion of the material world, something I can hold on to, pick up, point at, hand to somebody, make or unmake. As a child, it's easy to relate to things that have objectiveness to them, kind of object. Like there's a point at which we learn object permanence and can assume that it's still there. If we leave the room and then come back, it'll still be there, right? So the notion of threeness, or the notion of number, of any sort of number, is it's actually quite a leap to make for a child. I don't know if you can remember that yourself, but I remember when I learned the concept of number, it was a little bit shocking to me, to be honest. Again, this was when people were quite young, and remembering that sort of stuff might be hard for any of us. The notion of the modalities, the three modalities of immanent, omniscient, and transcendent, are as far away from our usual see and touch realm in the same direction as the numbers are an abstraction, beyond the degree to which numbers are an abstraction. So say, for example, that see and touch represents like zero on a number line, right? And I have to use an abstraction to even sort of conceive of this, right? And let's say that the notion of abstractness of a number represents, say, like a space between my hands. Now, I'm just making this up, but the idea is that the level of abstraction associated with the modalities would be from one of my hands and then the same amount of distance farther away. So in that sense, be prepared to hold the notion of the modalities as not attached to any specific thing, and also not attached to any specific concept. There's still structure there, but it's structure that is even more remote, a lot more remote than the notion of even the notion of number, or even the notion of mathematics itself.